Hello. What's up, guys? All two of you. So, what I want to talk about today is a lot of the mechanics that we just don't talk about when we talk about running for office. And you don't know this stuff unless you do it, unless you're shadowing someone who's running. So a couple of things we do want to get into are qualifying fees, qualifying dates and times. I have my own personal fun story about that to tell. But also expectations. And if anybody has any questions or just wants to pop in and try and figure out a definition to a term or what have you, please by all means do. I'm having Ali share this link on. Okay, I hear an echo of myself right now. It's kind of weird. Anyway, I'm having Ali share this link on the group page, or I'm sorry, the event page, so folks can reference that if they find that before they find my face here. But welcome everybody. Early shout outs to Michelle and Ali and Cassandra and Shannon and Elizabeth. Welcome Michelle. I'm glad you're on because you have run for office, so you can give me you can give me the backup about some of this stuff, and you can also supplement for sure. But anyway, running for office, right? So why should we talk about this right now? Well, it's really important to talk about this right now because we are, even though we are kind of far out from the election day, you need all this time. you need all this time to get it together, to get your name out there, especially if you're a first-time candidate. Name recognition is going to be big. Also, money, right? So that's why I have this right here. These are dollar amounts. So something that we should get into basically is how much does it cost just to get your name on the ballot, right? That's what qualifying is, right? So what does qualifying mean? Well, qualifying means you basically paid the Board of Elections or you paid a political party to get your name on the ballot, right? So Justin Holzenbach, another former candidate on here, fantastic. So I'll be looking for everybody's back up on some of these issues, but also questions and also points that if, for example, there was something that you wanted to know before you ran, for the case of Michelle and Justin, please throw it up here because that's why I want to do this. Even though we work with the party or we, think we're hot stuff when it comes to politics, there's a lot of stuff you just don't know until you dive in. So when it comes to financial reporting for a campaign, when it comes to declaring a candidacy or creating a campaign committee, these are all things that we just neglect to talk about in the midst of everything else and maybe the 24-hour political distraction. But I want to do this sort of to encourage folks because part of the reason it's really important to recruit good candidates, but it's important to make sure folks are prepared, is because that's how you create a bench, and we need that. We desperately need a bench in the Democratic Party, and especially in Georgia. So I hope that if you see this, if you happen to catch it, it's useful to you. And it can back up maybe you for yourself or maybe for someone that you think should really jump in, maybe someone that hasn't realized how easy it can be to jump in to get into it. So is the party going to help me? Great question. Yes, so if you are a candidate and you want to jump in, and of course that's one of those things, right? So you've decided you're going to run on the Democratic ticket. How much are they going to help you? Well, early on, let's be straight up, they can't, right? So there are folks in the party that can be helpful. There are individuals who may, give you help, but the party is not going to help you, especially if they know or they believe that there's some primary coming up or whatever. And that's not a slight on the party at all. That's just honestly what they should tell you, straight up, from the get. They should be honest with you and let you know, okay, you're a candidate who's running for a partisan office, and I can't help you because you may have a primary challenger, and we can't officially endorse candidates until after the primary. So if there's someone maybe within the party who's got a great network and networks are great within the party, you definitely want to befriend those folks. You definitely want to talk to those folks. You want to let them know what your platform is and hopefully get their ideas. But we're getting kind of ahead of ourselves, so I want to make sure, before, that's a great question. because yes, how much the party is going to help you? I mean, we can just be honest. The party can only do so much. Now, the party before and during campaigns should be doing what it's supposed to do, which is disseminating information and making sure that candidates' information is getting to their membership, and also that their membership are super engaged in the process and signing up for volunteer shifts and working to get their candidate elected. But you, the candidate, it's really on you as far as the rest goes, and also trying to pull out what you can from individuals, not necessarily the party, right? Because yes, when we talk about, oh, the party doesn't do this, the party doesn't do that, or it should have done more kind of thing, there's always more that the party can be doing, but it needs to be honest and specific about what it is that can be, because it cannot be, especially prior to primaries where there's a challenge, it can't be the case that they fully endorse. Now, let me talk about windows of time, because that relates to this question as well. We've got, let me see, can y'all see? Yeah, y'all can see up here. So, as a candidate, you will go from exploring to declared to qualified to the primary and the general. And if you guys can't read that, that's fine, because they're just really there to organize my thoughts. But when we talk about a candidate is exploring an opportunity to run, that means they're in a phase where they're not raising money, typically. They could be using the word incorrectly, but exploring a candidacy typically means they're looking to sort of get initial buzz before creating their campaign committee and declaring. So I will try and make this so y'all can see up there. Okay, so exploring to declaring to qualified to a primary to the general race. So right now, for example, we have Stacey Abrams is exploring a candidacy. If you could go on her website right now, you'll see options to sign up, but you won't see necessarily options to give money yet. Why? Because this declaring piece means you can start making money, and declaring means you have filled out your intent. Your declaration of intent is the form. It's basically a form that gets your basic information. It also enables you to open a bank account for your committee, and it asks for who those members on your committee will be who are responsible for the books, right? For some of these races, it's really easy, or it's not necessarily unknown or unheard of for the candidate to be the same person that's handling the money, but you start getting up to, of course, Georgia Rep, Senate, U.S. Senate, U.S. Rep, and a lot of times you have a treasurer and you have separate folks on the committee responsible for different responsibilities. But again, exploring is you're just thinking about it. Declaring is now you've got the paperwork in. You can open up that bank account, get the money flowing. Qualified means you have paid the money to get on the ballot. So I have a sort of a fun story about this, because I almost ended up on a ballot for Board of Education back in 14, I think. And part of the issue was I had declared and I had filled out the paperwork and I've been raising some money. But qualifying week is a certain window of time. So again, windows are important to remember here. And I did share a couple things on the event page that talk about those windows. So you'll reference the post where it says more things to consider when running for office. That's going to have a lot of those dates and those windows that are important for candidates to consider. But again, exploring a run is one thing, declaring is another. You're able to get the money going, and qualifying is paying that money to the Board of Elections. So I'm going to kind of circle this, because you have to pay the money to qualify. That's all that means. Qualifying just means you paid the money to get on the ballot. And if you're running as an independent, it's a little different. But if you're running for you're paying directly to the Board of Elections. But if you're running as a Republican or as a Democrat, that money is going. Part of that money is going to those parties, if you understand. So, and for you to essentially be the name, be the placeholder. Another reason why, again, parties really can't endorse until either two things are guaranteed. There are no other qualified candidates in that party, or of course you've won the primary, right? So if you have more than one Democrat running, then they can't endorse during this window. But if you only have one Democrat running, then you've opened up the possibility there for them to endorse and work more closely with you before the primary. Obviously, after the primary, then the donkey's out to race with you. But anyway, so let me take a little break here from the declared and qualifying to get back to this money situation, because people think it's really expensive to run for office. And yes, it can be really expensive to run for office. And yes, you need to raise tons of money to get your name out there. But as we've seen a lot of times, it doesn't just take money. Sometimes it takes a really good team to get you overboard there. A lot of times, recently we've seen candidates on the national level especially get outspent and still win. Or in the case right now of over in the 6th, I mean, there's tons of money being thrown into this race, but when it comes down to it, it's going to be about turnout, right? It's going to be making sure people show up, and money doesn't vote. People's feet ensures that they vote. So I'm going off into my campaign spiel there, but let's talk about how much it costs to run. So these are the figures from back in 2016, qualifying fees, and again, I just want to stress to folks what these terms mean when we talk about qualifying. It just means you've paid the money to the Board of Elections, and by proxy your party, if you're running under a party banner, to have your name on the ballot. Now, you have to do that within a certain time frame. For 2018, that's going to mean March 5th through the 9th. It's the first full week, and that's why I've got that there. And during that time frame, you just go up and you basically for some races like judges, you have to fill out extra affidavits, but basically it means getting your paperwork in order to be a full-fledged candidate, and also paying those fees. So for 2016 U.S. Senate race, it costs $5,220. How did they come up with that figure? Well, it's a percentage of their base pay. So the base salary for let me pull it up here. The base salary for a U.S. senator in 2016 was $174,000. And honestly, if I were to run for office, I would say it's time to cut that pay. it's time to bring that down. If I was running, I don't know why you'd need that much money to be to listen to people. Basically, have a good ear to the people. But anyway, and so by proxy, every time that the U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Reps vote to increase their pay, what they're also actually doing is increasing the amount of money it costs to qualify for that office. Bet y'all didn't know that, because I didn't know that, and I think I'm pretty hot stuff sometimes. Anyway, I'm gonna say that again. Every time these politicians pay to raise their base salary, they're making it a little more expensive to run for that office, because this number is a percentage of that. I would tell you what that percentage was if I was that smart, but I don't have it right off in memory. Maybe somebody else can Google that or whatever and put it up here. But that's how we come to this $5,220 amount here, and it's the same for U.S. representative. Now, I didn't put up here, I'll just read it off to you. Public Service Commissioner was $3,493.57. That's how much it costs to qualify to get your name on the ballot, because that income it was $116,452.32. Now, it's so much easier when we're talking about Georgia Senate and Georgia Rep. That's a flat $400. So those folks that want to run out in the 9th or the 1st or let's see, who's out here this way that might be running. Well, I can't think any offhand, but that's flat $400. So when we talk about qualifying fees there, we really are just talking about, not too much. I mean, if you're thinking about it, you've got a couple folks, a couple of the family members help you get to qualifying. There you go. That's what you can expect to come out during that week. Of course, you need to be able to pay for radio, TV, ads. You need to be able to pay for events and food. You need to be able to draw folks out, and you need to be able to pay for all the printing that you're going to be having to do, T-shirts and the rest, signs, this and that. But yeah, so this is just something to consider if you're thinking, maybe myself, or maybe someone I'd like to support, or maybe someone who I could maybe recruit to run for office. These are the kinds of things that you want to know. These are the kinds of things you want to walk into that room just prepared to say. Some folks are really ambitious and they don't know any of this stuff and they just jump in, and that's great. But if you're talking to someone who you think is a good ear to the community that should start to become our Democratic Party bench, then this is some of the information that you can bring them to make them feel even more confident about stepping in, because that's really what this is about. I want to encourage anyone and everyone to feel welcome to run. We have a candidate running in South Carolina, District 84, who I won't talk too much about her business right off, but we're very proud and glad that she is a person who is connected to the community that's running under the Democratic banner right now in a very red district. But because we need it. We need somebody like her to represent our platform. We need our platform to have a champion like her in the community to spearhead it. So anyone and everyone, I'm encouraging you. I would love to see, a half a dozen Democrats try to run for these offices, if not for any other reason than to just get the experience, right? Figure out what's hard about it, what's easy about it. A lot of folks, it takes them a couple times of losing before they win. Barack Obama would be an example. Cory Booker is another example. Folks that we've been following for a long time, they didn't just, get bit by the bug and magically win. It took some work and organization. So this is some of the information that I want to make sure folks are getting right off, because I had to go look. And I'll just be honest, I didn't get this information the first time I wanted to run. I had to dig for it. I had to go to the Board of Elections and make tons of appointments and follow up to try and get the best information. And even after I did it a bunch of times, there was still more to learn. So it's definitely and then I also put down here, I didn't talk about Board of Education in Richmond County anyway, is only $100. Okay, Bernie Sanders. There you go. Another great example. So Board of Education in Richmond County is only $100. So we don't have anybody running in 17, but we will have some folks running in 18. Of course, our state races are they have parity with with the governor's races, and then our U.S. Our sort of more of our federal races, of course, have parity with the president. So some of those won't be up until 20. And the way the city goes, we got half and half. And I don't have the number here for running for commission, but I think it's just over $1,200 to qualify. I won't write that down because I don't want anybody to tell me I'm wrong. But but it's only about, I want to say $1,200 to run there. It might be a little less than that because it is a percentage again of their base pay, and Richmond County commissioners make about 14 to 16, I think is the range there, $1,400 to $1,600. I'm sorry, $14,000 to $16,000 a year. So anyway, here's where also, if you're tired of listening to me and my delivery here, where I would encourage you to go to ethics.ga.gov. Ethics.ga.gov is the Bible of all of this stuff, right? This is where you're going to find out a lot of deadlines for reporting. It's where you're going to find out if you are trying to run different filings and forms. I would just go, when you go right to the page, ethics.ga.gov, I would go to the forms, reports, and publications, and just look around, because that's where you're going to find, I don't want to run, but I want to encourage somebody to run for Georgia House 123. Okay, what's the best way to go about finding a candidate and convincing them to run? So I'm in, again, the best thing you can do is educate yourself as if you are running, so you can present this to them. And if you're curious about who to look for, these are folks that, okay, for example, like we did in South Carolina, we had somebody we already knew. She was kind of interested, but the mold that she kind of fits that might be easy for you to replicate is in your community there are folks that are in publications talking about issues that are affecting families, issues that are affecting something related to social justice, or something related to education. These are the folks that maybe have not thought about running, or maybe have not thought about how easy it could be to run, or maybe don't feel like there's a team under them yet, that you could help support, right? So I don't have an answer for you, right? So 123, here's the person to talk to. I can't tell you that. But in 123, if you read the paper, you can find in publications there where folks are talking about metro issues, you can find someone. What I would do, honestly, is you could go to, give me an example of a publication out there, or just, okay, so Augusta Chronicle, right? You can find out if someone lives in 123 by searching in the Augusta Chronicle for justice, social justice, rally, protest. And, right, so I know a couple of names that are going to pop up, probably yours and mine first. But then some other folks. Those are the folks that we want to try to encourage to run, or folks in their circle that are helping to fund some of these things, right? So it can be needle in the haystack. But here's the other thing. Iman, you said you don't want to run. Well, if you live in 123 and you want somebody to run, but you don't know who that is, maybe you should run, right? Maybe it sounds crazy, maybe it sounds flippant, but I'm being serious, because this is what we need. We need people to not be so afraid of jumping out there. In fact, it's really encouraging. Like, this part of the reason I'm doing this is because I keep seeing on conversations all over the internet, Facebook, Twitter, what have you, that folks want to find out who's running for what, or they want to find out who they can support, or who's or complaining that nobody's run, or maybe the last folks that ran in this race or that race, were kind of duds, or what have you. Run. I'm encouraging you to run. So if you're that person who is concerned, or if you're that person who feels like there's not enough people running, or people that care about this issue, that issue, run, right? But I want to follow up with that. I don't want to just say run. I want you to feel empowered to know that it really doesn't cost that much. Or when you look at how much it costs, or how much you think you might need to raise, that it's doable. That the hardest part, or not the hardest part, I won't say that really the only thing stopping you from being someone who's I'm going to just put over here, private citizen, to exploring a run, to declared, to qualified, is this money, right? So you're talking about Georgia's 123rd, so that's going to be right here. That's only $400, man. So I'm serious. If that's all that's keeping you from running, or keeping someone else that you think might go for it, then let's do it. Martin Luther King said about the civil rights movement, he admitted that it takes a certain kind of crazy. It takes a certain kind of, I think that's the word he used, was crazy, but essentially the spirit of it being that these people who are risking their lives, that are in these marches, that are being persistent and organizing these things, as the government's plotting against them, and along with racists and the KKK, it takes people that are a little bit crazy. But these are important times. I'm not out here to support the most vanilla candidate that just pops up. I want somebody that's going to look me in the eye and tell me seriously what it is they want to do, or what it is the issues are. So if you're serious about finding someone in 123, I think you can find those people by either Googling or Facebook, honestly. In all these groups that we have, for example, Augusta Indivisible, figuring out who lives where, and getting them to understand that it could be as easy as $400 to get them on the ballot. Just to get them on the ballot, which is a huge step. The rest, when it comes to getting ads and TV and all the rest, of course, you're going to need a fundraising machine. You're going to need a team to knock doors. But I think, as we're showing, for example, in South Carolina's District 84, these people will come if you get them the name and the energy to go. But it does take a little bit of some of these mechanics. So again, I want to get back on track of what we were talking about here as far as the mechanics. Again, all it takes for you to, and this is for some of the newer folks that have joined here, who are just catching up. What we talked a little bit about is what this chart says, which is what qualifying fees are, right? And these are the dollar amounts. These are some of the things. I'll put RCBOE because I'm honestly not sure if it's still $100 for Columbia County, but it does graduate essentially, right? It's going to be less expensive to get on the ballot for a race that's closer to the municipal level, and it's going to be a lot more as you go up. And I explained why, of course. It's a percentage of their base salary. But all it takes to go from a private citizen to someone exploring is the idea of running, right? So Ayman mentioned, how do I find somebody or who should run? I mean, we've got, hold on, there's how many people? So there's 9 people on here right now. We've probably had a handful of people come and go. All of these people I can see being on a ballot right now. LaCour Tanet, Sharon Hill, Krupesh Patel, John Ring, Tyler. And again, that's why I use the JFK picture. If not us, who? And if not now, when? Because I'm serious. We need to be creating this bench. And if not me, then somebody else, somebody better will get in the race, and maybe they'll win. Cool. That's how this should work. If we keep relying on the same people who are always the only people that are confident enough or moneyed enough to show up, then that's who we end up with, right? I'm tired of that. I don't want to accept that. I don't want the same people that perpetuate that to be the only ones that get to pass laws or enforce laws. So that's why this information needs to get to people like you. Martin, I'm glad you appreciate it, man. Again, let me just highlight what we're looking at here. February 1st. Why did I put that up here? I haven't talked about that yet. So the reason February 1st is relevant to this conversation is because that is the last day that the government will set qualifying fees. So I put up 2016's qualifying fees as a basis, but obviously in 2017 and 2018 they're going to have different qualifying fees. 2017 I know locally we don't have many races at all. And then but in 18 we're going to have a lot of commissioners go up. We're going to have some Board of Ed. And obviously we're going to have our statewide races that are happening. So what's going to happen on February 1st is they're going to publish, the State Board of Elections is going to publish what those qualifying fees are. Obviously they should be in a range, and you can actually already determine them, being that the Georgia Code tells you what they're supposed to be. It's usually a formula, so like with these, it's a percentage of their base. If there has been any change in their base salary, which I believe there has been, this will go up a little bit. But again, what happens, and you can do what I did too, you can always call the Board of Elections, you can always call the county or call the state, and somebody will pretty quickly be able to give you that answer. It's not like calling the IRS or something. If you call the State Board of Elections, usually get patched through to somebody who's got an answer for you, and can cite the code for you if you had trouble finding something. But again, February 1st is important because February 1st of 2018, they're going to set the qualifying fees for that time frame, and March, in the first full week, is when qualifying actually occurs. So that's the actual time frame that candidates who want to be on the ballot have to have filed their paperwork, just giving basic information about who they are and what they're running for and yada yada, and then paid their fees. So that's going to be that's why I put this 5th through the 9th. March 5th through the 9th is going to be the first full week in 2018. So if you're thinking about running, or if you want to talk somebody into running, that's what they need to know, right? They need to know that you have all the advantage of beginning the process now, of declaring and raising money for that goal of qualifying, but also for the goal of, your ads that you want to run, your signs that you want to make, your stickers, your buttons, your everything. And then your primary, of course, is going to occur, I want to say, in May. No, I'm sorry. That's also on the, I don't have to guess because it's right there. Yeah, I put on a picture. I put the picture for, why don't I see it there? I put the picture up. It's under the heading of more information about running. It's got the primary date there. July 9th is the last day to have it. put on the general. So July 2nd qualifying. Sorry. So we can come back to that, but that's that's what you need to know basically if you're looking to run. And so those dates. Okay, I'm looking. There it is. April 20. No. Voter registration deadline is April 23rd. Election date is May 22nd. So right, and then the runoff, if there is a runoff for the primary, it'll be July 24th next year. So that's another big consideration too. So May 2nd, if you're, I'll go ahead and put that on here. So 2018 primary is May 22nd, and of course the general election is going to be November 6th. Yeah, I will kind of make a little mess here and put voter registration, because a lot of us, even if we're not running for office or we're not helping out a campaign, we can definitely be doing voter registration in this time frame. And the voter registration deadline is April 23rd. So, okay, sorry. And yes, my handwriting hasn't changed since the second grade, so you guys have fun comprehending all of this going on behind me. Any other questions? I want to make sure I didn't miss any. All right, so just the last one was about trying to find candidates and recruit candidates. Again, I think recruiting candidates has to be about this, has to be about the mechanics. We miss that when we just talk about the platform. And of course the platform is important. Yes, of course our platitudes have to be on point. We have to be, getting a crowd going. But sometimes we really just need somebody who's willing to invest the time. And the time it takes to be a candidate, of course, is demanding. The investment, of course, financially is there. But if you have a support system, then it's kind of possible. And if you're able to get that committee together, then there you go. I will talk about the committee for a second, too. The committee comes in right here. So it's a little high. Maybe you guys can't see it. But the committee comes in between exploring and declaring. You're going to want to, before you declare, have determined who those committee members are. Who's going to be your treasurer? Who's going to be your media person? For the purpose of declaring, for that paperwork at least, really all you need is a campaign committee chair and a campaign committee treasurer. But it would be helpful to have other things too. Those are the ones that the Declaration of Intent paperwork require. But if you are, if you're in the process of going from someone who's exploring a race to actually declaring, then you might as well think about the bigger picture and who's going to be your point of contact for everything from events to volunteering. Just go ahead and give yourself that head start. Also, to the point on your committee there, you're going to need to show up prepared to the Board of Elections with financial information, right? You're going to be immediately at the scrutiny of regular reporting, and regular reporting basically is each month they will set a date, usually at the very end of the month, for you to report everything that you've raised. And if you're not familiar with the reporting documents, you're going to be going into a little blind. But as a candidate who wants to be comfortable and have a good experience, you may just want to get yourself again comfortable with those forms. And again, those forms are at ethics.ga.gov. So if you go to ethics.ga.gov, you can be able to familiarize yourself with how those are filled out. And also, you can again use the Board of Elections state and your county to your benefit. I will mention there also that it's tiered, right? So if you're running for municipal office, your best friend is going to be your local Board of Elections personnel. If you're running for state office, your best friends are going to be the state office personnel in the Atlanta offices, right? The local folks can be a resource for sure, but you're definitely going to want to verify everything with the state. above state, of course, with federal, your best friends are going to be essentially the national Board of Elections folks, not the state and not the municipal. Just something to consider, if you're running for U.S. Senate versus Georgia Senate, or running for mayor or something like that, or commission. So we made a little mess here. We talked about going from a private citizen to someone who's exploring, to putting a committee together and declaring, which means putting the paperwork in, and also now once you've declared, you can start raising the money that will go toward your qualifying fees. Again, for the good students that have been paying attention, qualifying is the first full week in March of the year that you're obviously being elected, which will be March 5th through the 9th. And the qualifying fees themselves are set February 1st of that year as well. So you can have an idea of what they're going to cost having looked at prior years. For example, we looked at 2016, but in 2018 they're going to have those set on February 1st and publish those. Publishing, that's another big thing I meant to talk about. So, or the media. I'll get back into the media after I finally finish this thought here. So then qualifying. You've qualified. You gave your money, and now you're guaranteed to be on the ballot. Next up is your primary, right? So you got to win the primary, and if you're running against anybody, it's going to be great, and if not, it's going to be even better. But then you've got your general. We talked about when those dates are. In 2018, it's going to be May 22nd, and the general is going to be November 6th. Now let me talk about the media for a second, because the media are fun. But the media, you can expect, will always be thinking about being 5 steps ahead of you. Now, if you're a candidate that the media is a fan of, they're going to want to really know what's going on. If you're a candidate the media is not very fond of, you're going to have to work extra hard to try and get that free press. But get it. But the other thing is, along this process, the media is going to be trying to find out who you are, right? So if you have gone from a private citizen to someone who's exploring, they're going to be looking you up and trying to find stuff and put stuff out and asking questions about you. But what they're really going to be waiting for is the moment that you have declared. They're going to be asking, and here's something that the media does, and that's not a secret. They'll check in, especially like starting now, right? Prior to now, not a lot of buzz will be happening, but now is when they're expecting folks to go from exploring to declared. And I can talk to you too just for a second about what a good window of time for that is. But they're going to be checking in regularly with the Board of Elections to find out who's declared. And so you want to be ready for that. You want to be prepared for that, right? If you want to be able to frame your own campaign as much as you can, and you don't want the media to kind of get a jump on framing you for you. In some cases, you're not going to really have much choice, but at least in this case, you can declare, and you can officially file your paperwork and get it into the Board of Elections, and frame it yourself, and you can invite the media to something, and they'll come. Or you can let the media just do what they're going to do anyway, which is put you on blast as soon as they find out from the Board of Elections that you declared. So I would encourage every candidate to do the former instead of the latter. When you announce, or when you want to declare, when it's legal and when you can start raising money, make that a show, make that an appearance, make that something worth the media writing about, but you also being able to get your own buzz out yourself. Because if you don't, it doesn't matter. The media is going to already probably have somebody at the Board of Elections, in their ear to say, "Ooh, this person came by," or this person, did declare, or whoever it is, some roving reporter. They'll be up there getting the information. So I did talk about, just for a second, the windows of declaring, right? So let me see if you guys can. No, you can't really read it anyway. I'm just going to put it up there. Now is what are we in? We're in May, April, May. Yeah. So again, like I said, the media is going to be looking now to see who's declaring, and probably and then qualifying, we said, is going to be in May of next year. So declaring, I think what I've always heard is that February is like an absolute last time that you want to, the latest that you want to declare. But most people go for November. So if you, which gives you about a year, obviously, to the general, but gives you some of that window to qualifying as far as raising money for that. So you can totally try and sneak in at the very end and have your money ready to end up on the ballot and qualify within a week, of doing things. But I don't see the joy in that, and I don't see the transparency in that, obviously. But I would say get on it now, guys. If you ever, and here's the thing, as far as the people that I've worked with in politics, like, I would encourage anyone and everyone to run for office. I almost would dare them to, because I feel like unless you do it, what we're talking about is just sort of a novelty. And I'm talking about everybody. I mean, the people I love, the people I hate, the people I don't hate. That's too much energy. But I would encourage everybody to just do it. In fact, I waited so long, thinking that somebody and actually being told, honestly, being told to my face that someone would tap someone. They said, well, here's sort of the dichotomy of it. They said, when it's your time, you'll be tapped. And then and then I got tapped, and I was like, no, this is definitely not my time. Like, absolutely not. This is way too. I gotta get a degree. I gotta make a ton of more money. I gotta get some stuff squared with my family. No, like, and that was years and years ago. That feels like a total different lifetime. I don't have no regrets about it, because I feel like, again, like, it took me this long to realize, but there's never going to be a perfect time to do it. And again, the experience of investing yourself and your passion and your love for the community, or your vision for kind of what needs to change or what needs to improve, I think we all, especially as Georgia Democrats, owe it to ourselves, owe it to our platform, owe it to what it is we say we're doing to run. We read the paper, we get involved, we watch what happens on TV, and and I'm showing you here, this is all that's stopping you, that's keeping you from going in, from getting in. Ivan's got another one. Is there a sequence of roles that works best for particular positions? For example, I've noticed many state reps were county commissioners first. Yeah, sure. I'll try to see if I can pair that with. There's not a necessity, right? Elizabeth was saying. Right. There's not a necessity for the order. And then I think Robert was asking me who is they, as far as who I was talking about, saying would tap me. These are honestly, I'll just narrow it to local county party executives, right? The dichotomy is that they'll also say, you're a leader, so lead, and that can be as vague as I don't know what, and then of course you can try leading and then end up stepping on toes and somebody can complain. So it's, it is what it is. But I say all that to say, like, there's no best advice, you know what I mean, as far as when to run. If the same people are telling you that you got to wait, but they're also saying, like, your time's coming, or they're saying, like, now is your time, like, it may as well all be relative. Because unless they're doing it, then someone else is going to frame our leadership. Someone else is going to take that position. And we have the influence, even if we don't win, to run and to push the envelope, to force the narrative, to force the issues. We had this saggy pants thing going on here locally, and I tell you, I couldn't even believe, like, this is where we were. I ended up seeing some Yahoo. It went national, apparently. We got mentioned on a Yahoo little video, and talking about the saggy pants stuff. And apparently it's not just happening here; it's happening all over the country. We got cities and municipalities trying to make saggy pants illegal. And I don't know how many. I think I kind of felt like back in high school we dealt with this. Like, we just all agreed that's a silly thing to be talking about, and it doesn't help. And if anything, it's perpetuating the issues. And honestly, right now, I mean, I thought tight jeans was the thing right now. I didn't even think this was an issue. But look, if our current leadership is making that the issue, then we need people running to remind them that that's not the issue. That the issue in Richmond County is not saggy pants. The issue in Richmond County is education standards, is after school opportunities, streets and roads, is public transit. Okay, like, wear your saggy pants. I would rather you wear them on the bus on the way to a job, than arrest you for it, for having them. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we can't even talk about getting the buses to go on time. But anyway, moving on. The bus staff are fantastic. I'm talking about the city that has yet to give us a reliable transit that people can rely on all over South Augusta and East Augusta. But that's another thing. As far as the sort of the, what is it, the not chain of command, leapfrogging the order of operations as far as political dexterity and sort of where you go from to lead to another thing. I would say, forget the trends, because we've seen the pundits do want to deal with progressive thinkers. Oh, right. Do not want to deal. Do not want and need thinkers. Sure, for sure. So, yeah, I've seen over the years folks run for city commission that hadn't held any office before. We've seen people run, like Lee Anderson has run for the 12th a couple times. Didn't have a whole lot of public service background. I would say the only field where I feel like you see a lot of that is law enforcement. You see folks like Scott Peoples and Sheriff Roundtree have given years to the profession, but otherwise, like, I don't see it. Maybe somebody else can show me. But the other thing is, I don't prefer it. Like, I just personally, like, I don't want the next Camelot. You know what I mean? I'm not looking for the next Kennedy's family to take over. I would like to see these folks come out of nowhere who are not afraid to look the camera in the eye and not speak platitudes and talking points on behalf of a party or on behalf of groupthink or some cabal. I would rather folks be consistent about their own platform and what they stand on. So, I got you, Robert. It's all good, man. But that's as much as I advocate for and I believe in the Democratic Party platform. It's a platform that has never been perfect and a platform that we have always fallen short of. So I don't personally see what we're going to get from Georgia Senate Rep, U.S. House, Senate Rep, Governor. I don't see those people my perfect candidate coming from necessarily a political background, maybe as much as someone who I can point to integrity, and I can point to having challenged us to be our better selves. That's not always pretty. It's not always polite, but I mean, that's what I'm after personally. I didn't want to make this about my personal thing, but if we're talking about recruiting candidates, I mean, I can tell you that's what I'm after. And I encourage anyone else who's after something else to do that. I'm incredibly proud of Jennifer Laracy out there in South Carolina, because she really does give it to you straight. She really doesn't come from a place of being beholden to a particular perspective. She's eager to learn. She's curious, and she wants to know more. And she's humble enough to know when she doesn't know something, and can keep searching and looking. That's really what I'm looking for, and I think we will find those humble candidates, those folks who maybe have been running a business for a couple of years, or maybe brought a business into a community, maybe folks who have been advocates for families, advocates for education, regular members of the PTA, because I tell you, the PTA sometimes can be, I mean, that can be some brutal politics right there. We don't even realize. Folks that have regularly given to public service, civic organizations. These are sometimes where you will find folks that have the heart, have the integrity, but maybe haven't realized that there's a need for their brand of communication, for their form of delegation in our own government. And what's going to be coming up next year is everything from tax commissioner to mayor. All of the even numbered city commissioners are going to be up as far as Richmond County goes. Obviously, I can't speak to other counties that are listening in, but I encourage you to find out. Again, you have a county board of elections person that you can ring most weekdays from probably 9 or 10 to 4 or 5. I would call them up and get your own list and go live on your own on your own thread or your own Facebook page and get it together. So, any more questions? I don't want to go off or go long, but I do want to hit home for anyone that missed it or came on to this later. What we've been talking about is some of the mechanics of determining whether you want to run for office, and I'm encouraging everyone to run for office. And I'm not even saying like I'm disappointed in you if you don't run for office. I just want you to start thinking about it if it was something you never thought about. Because here's the other thing, and then we talk about this all the time as far as economics goes, but we forget it when it comes to politics somehow or other. Competition can breed talent, and if we encourage that competition, obviously in the political realm, we're going to have the cream rise to the top instead of what we have been dealing with, which is the same old, same old. Even locally, there are political families. There are names and faces that you just see over and over and over again, right? We are enabling our own political dynasties when we don't, as individuals who may not have gotten into the process, continue to stay out of it. So I'm eager to meet these folks that maybe have never gotten into it, to learn, right? Because it shouldn't just be these folks that you always see all the time, who are beholden or have the relationships going back decades constantly on as our options. So I want folks that are out there, and luckily people are starting to do it. I mean, unfortunately, it took a political revolution on Bernie's end and a political mess on Trump's end to get folks to realize. But you can come into this out of nowhere or seemingly without the public service bona fides, and end up being folks that can speak truth to power. Those are my heroes. Those are the folks that I want to look up to, and I'm hopeful that if maybe it's not me, but Tupac said he may not start the revolution, but he may inspire the person that starts the revolution. That's something that I want folks to also believe here. Maybe it's not you, but maybe you know the person. Maybe you can find him for us. Elizabeth's given us some great advice here. Have the heart, have the integrity, but can't get over the hurdle of being forced to quit those public service jobs. Can a candidate who has to quit their job expect any kind of legitimate support? How do the non-wealthy make do? Not with the initial fee, with their loss of paycheck. Oh, absolutely, no, for sure. I mean, that's a big piece, and I think I touched on it maybe for a moment there, just trying to keep up with the the other logistics that we wanted to talk about, being qualifying fees and windows of time frame. But yeah, so there's the real world mechanic of like, okay, you've just decided to invest in giving this time for a campaign, and that's really up to you. I mean, yes, for some jobs you will, and Elizabeth, for example, you're a teacher, so yes, if you're a teacher, I mean, and especially being in a private institution, you're going to be more than likely asked to forego that job, or you yourself are going to know, like, I can't do both. I gotta pick one. Unfortunately, the honest answer is there is no paycheck. There is no honest pay. Now, on the federal level, I think there are some stipulations where a campaign can, in essence, you can pay yourself, but it's like putting a lien against your campaign. So you have to pay that back, but during the campaign you can pay yourself. But that's not what we're talking about here, unless you're running for president, which, hey, 2020, let's go. But no, the fact of the matter is you have to have that squared away, right? So we're talking, this is May 2017. For a year, understand that, yeah, you're going to have that support system built so that if you don't have a paycheck coming, it's still possible for you to to go forward with a full-time campaign. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. I think unfortunately the system we have now, where super PAC can not coordinate but give so much money to these campaigns, and you have candidates that really we're almost automatically creating only coming from that class of folks that can afford it, is not right, because there's nothing in the law that says you can't be unemployed and run for office. And I tell you what, I think the unemployed probably know the struggle more than most of us, and I wouldn't mind putting my vote to someone who I thought had the integrity, and maybe just didn't have the resume, or maybe they had the resume, but they unfortunately were a casualty of our economy. So yeah, no, I definitely don't have a good answer for you there. I don't have a chipper answer. I think. I think the legitimate support you're talking about has to come from your family and your friends, and the honesty that that check is not going to come from you. Unfortunately, I mean, obviously, when you're running a campaign, you have to be careful that you don't skirt ethics laws and violations, because of course that's where the media and your opponents are going to be looking to try and find you slip up. Any little thing, everything has to be accounted for. Having worked on campaigns myself, I understand that everything, the paper in the printer itself, the ink that is in the printer, that's in your office, the office itself, the furniture in it, everything has to be accounted for. The snacks and the donations and everything, you want to be able to report correctly, and none of that can appear to have gone into some sort of personal, some sort of personal use. Aside from your campaign. Now, especially when you get into state and national campaigns, then it becomes even trickier, because you have to make sure none of that bleeds to the other side. So if you're coordinating, if let's say you decided to run for against Heiss, Jody Heiss, and they had somebody running for governor that wanted to coordinate with you, have materials for you guys to work on together. Maybe have both your names and faces and stuff, and you both be passing out this literature. Now you've got to make sure that each race, each person's race, that money is accounted for too. So it gets tricky, it gets wild, but you have to be able to dedicate that year, and then also know that on the back end, okay, win or lose, you've given that year up, and the next step is recouping either into that job that you're now taking as the such and such representative for such and such district, or going back to the classroom, or going back to trying to get back into whatever industry you started in. I definitely wouldn't I wouldn't suggest to somebody that running for office is just another ladder or rung in the professional world. I know some people have used it for that, but that's not. I don't think that's why we need to be recruiting people into this, and we need to be brutally honest about what that investment is. That's why sometimes we end up with retirees, or we end up with folks that work in industries or have worked in industries that allow them those seasonal sort of time frames, or those those short-term or there's long-term leave of absence for them. But it's a good question. It's definitely a worthwhile question to ask. Now, also, Elizabeth is a party chair, so I'll just kind of add on to that in my preaching to folks to run, and in my hope that we can inspire folks to understand how easy it is. Obviously it's difficult. It's not easy. Like, oh, this is going to be cake, but just initially going from a private citizen to someone who's exploring a run to having declared and becoming a qualified candidate. Once you demystify that, the rest can sort of become a more organic process, or a process more that the candidate and their team devise. But you can't have that without the first part that we never talked about. Again, being that person that's thinking about running, and then someone who's declared, raising money, and the rest. So to that point, when I'm talking about everybody running, the few people that I'm actually talking about not running are current party leaders. and I'm not saying don't run, Elizabeth. I'm just saying, unfortunately, party leaders, it is written that you can't do both. You can't hold county executive offices or state executive offices and run for office. Obviously, it's a different job. So when you are holding those offices, if you choose to run for office, you do unfortunately have to relinquish those or resign from those, and then and it's not impossible. Of course, people do it all the time, but it's just another consideration. So I just for folks who didn't know that, obviously you already knew that, Elizabeth, but for folks who didn't realize that, I'm really hopeful that folks who are maybe in the party already and have been doing things, but maybe aren't executives and maybe have a good relationship with those executives, can be starting these conversations about whether they should form a committee, because that would be a pretty powerful committee. If you already knew folks that were involved on your level, right? So for Elizabeth, yeah, you would have to do a couple things there, and that's it is. I'm trying to get people to think about doing it, but I don't want to just be dismissive of the fact that yes, it is a lifestyle change. We're talking about going from now, ideally, or at the maybe latest, like November, and even crazy late would be February. From now to that period, people deciding, okay, I want to make this monumental change in my days and weeks, but that change, the payoff is of course being the people, or being the person that represents us and our needs. If we don't encourage people to do that, who have the integrity and have the Constitution to go about this, then we're just going to end up with the same folks, with the same relationships, with the same background as we've had before. Now, Columbia County Dems and the district, of course, has the benefit of having you as our chair, one of our county chairs, which is an important role in and of itself. And your journey to getting there is important. I'm talking to Elizabeth Hahn here, of course. So all of that is supposed to make up that team. And as a chair, and as in a committee where it's important to be filling up our bench, I just want to just mention again, I don't think there are any wrong answers or wrong candidates. I've seen it happen where a county committee will dissuade, or members of a county committee will dissuade candidates from running without even realizing, without even thinking that the benefit to the committee is having a campaign and is having some action, right? So, yes, you want to vet, but I think it really is. Well, actually, I know because the state committees have told me that it's not the job of any county committee to dissuade any candidate from running. It is only their responsibility to giving them information about running, obviously. So, it's. I'm hopeful that all of our committees can take that seriously and start reaching out to folks that maybe even in their own minds, like, this guy's crazy. I don't know about this guy. This guy can't run. This maybe I wouldn't vote for him. Okay, that's fine. Give him the information. Let him run and take the benefit of having a campaign in your county to support. It's a great benefit to the county because it gives you practice. Look, I'm not saying run poor candidates. I'm saying run many candidates, and out of those many candidates, the best ones will rise, and the best campaigns will rise, and the best organized committees will grow, and it will advance in their own membership and in their own action, because that's what it's going to take for us to create a bench. I'm thinking like the short term is, yes, we need individuals to think about this and this, right, and these dates. But the long term is we need these people's daughters, cousins, sisters, aunts, uncles, church parishioners, neighborhoods, and the next generation to be more prepared than we were, and to have more peers in line than we have had. That's a deliberate goal that we talk about as members of our party, or that we hear the state members talk about as a necessity. But when it comes to the mechanics, we got to be more deliberate. We got to be more on it. And so that's why some of this information needs to get out there. We don't need. I don't know. I don't think it's a matter of us like playing it close to the chest. I think it's a matter of a lot of us just not having the practice. Again, I didn't have the practice until I decided, hey, maybe I'll try to get on the run for on the ballot for Board of Education, and leverage some of those relationships. But I'm encouraging everyone to. And here's the thing: maybe you won't run. Maybe you won't actually run. Pretend, right? Use the skills and get the paperwork. Go to ethics.ga.gov. Go to Ballotpedia. Go to Wikipedia. Find a district. Find a municipal race. Chart your own campaign. Do it as an exercise. And if at the end of that exercise you feel like, well, that wasn't too hard, or if you feel like, I wonder what would happen if I tried it, then hit me up. Then inbox me or something, because there's a conversation that we can have to build confidence there and build that bench. Unfortunately, our relationships on the Democratic side are not as deliberate as the relationships on the Republican side. And I've noticed that. Theirs may not even be as like genuine, but at least they're deliberate. They're actually deciding, this person's running for this, I want this person to run for this, these people have run for this already, here's how we can consider that. On the Democratic side, I don't think we're being as deliberate as we should be about that. And even if we can't, create it on the flip of a dime, what we can be doing is encouraging a larger audience of folks to jump in and giving them that emotional, psychic, societal support that maybe not as a party, or maybe not as the party, but as individuals and as folks that are politically plugged in, that we want to support them, and we want to show them how to be successful at this kind of thing. So welcome, David Smith, over there in Columbus. We tried to keep this as relevant to folks that were outside of Richmond County as possible. So that's why I got the U.S. and the GA stuff. And I mentioned a little bit about our own county, but if you're interested in finding out the qualifying fees for your county, obviously hit up your Board of Elections office, call them. Any questions, I'll be psyched to take. Otherwise, we're gonna end this. We're gonna cut this short here. Thanks for everybody for giving me the time of day here. I'll end this with some announcements. So, Progressives for Democratic Reform is the organization that I'm really proud of out here. Has been kind of at everything, trying to do everything and link up with everybody. We have allies in the community, and we want to just keep building those relationships as an organization that is definitely political and definitely wants to progress items here locally and across the state and nation. But some of the things that we'll be doing to sort of improve our structure are launching our website and our calendar. So please inbox me anything that you have going on in your side of things, even if it's out of way outside of Augusta. We would love to kind of be a guest. Maybe if it means coming down to Savannah, coming down to the beach or something, that'd be fun. Coming out to Columbus, coming up over to Atlanta. I'm excited to say that coming soon we're going to be holding phone banking, virtual phone banking or remote phone banking for both the John Ossoff campaign and the Christine Tripe campaign. Forgive me if I mispronounced that name at all. But we're going to have more information about that coming up soon, probably in the next week. They've both really gotten a good they're both unrolling their remote phone banking operations, and we are glad to be partners with that and in that. And if you'd like to be a partner as well, or if you'd like to help us execute any of these events or bring it to you or bring it to your meeting space or your venue, then by all means, help us do that. It's all a team effort. So, all right, thanks again, guys. Any other questions or whatever, I'll look out for in the inbox or on this post, on this live thread. Elizabeth, thank you so much for your contribution. Same with Iman, same with Michelle was on here earlier, and everyone else. Hope you learned something. If not, just thanks for giving me some time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Peace and love.